Hi, a very good afternoon to the audience, to the attendees who are joining us today for this very interesting session and willing to learn more about this industry, which has always been promising in various kind of economic situations. My name is Ankita. I am the marketing and corporate personnel at the University of Manchester Middle East Center. And with me today is Professor Selma Carson. She is going to host the webinar. She's going to talk through her slides. And we're very hopeful that this is going to give you a greater insight. And we will make sure that any concerns or questions you may have, we will pick those towards the end of the session and we'll try to address all of them. For those who have been communicating with us before, I'm sure they're aware of Selma Carson, but for those who are joining us new, let me give a quick, brief introduction about the speaker. Selma has over 25 years of experience in the real estate industry in the UK as a director of private investment companies and with CBRE after initially training as Chartered Surveyor with the Valuation Office, a government agency. In 2009, she moved into higher education and in 2013 joined the University of Manchester to establish a real estate department. As program director for MSc Real Estate in Manchester, she has established a thriving course from which graduates go on to successful property career across the UK and internationally. Her research interests are focused around making buildings better for business and the role of professional bodies in the 21st century, linked to her involvement with the RICS as a regional board director and chair of APC assessment panels. So I will now pass on the entire audience to you, Professor Selma, and you can take them along with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Ankita. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you today. So we're starting with our skyline of Manchester, which will look very low rise in comparison to what you're used to in Dubai, if you're joining us from there or from many other cities. And what I want to cover today is I want to just a little bit about why study real estate. And I want to explain more about our blended learning, Masters of Real Estate, the structure of it and some of the key features. If you want to study real estate, why study it with the University of Manchester? I will just finish with giving you a little bit more information about some of the key members of the team who you would meet and study with on the programme. So my background, as the introduction said, is predominantly practice along with higher education. I'm passionate about sharing my knowledge and experience of real estate with other people. I've had a brilliant career over the time, really enjoyable. It's a fantastic industry with which to be involved. And it's really because real estate is everywhere. I like this expression, it's the fabric of our lives. Real estate touches everybody everywhere in the world. The style of real estate is very different in different places, the way in which urban and rural centres have evolved. But it's fundamental to where we live, work and play. And I've just put up two quotations here to talk a little bit about why real estate really matters and what we as professionals can do to make it better. We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. It's often taken out of context a little bit. It's Winston Churchill, UK Prime Minister, back over 70 years ago. But I think it's so true. If we're in a position to shape the design, the use, the location of buildings, that helps to shape the society in which we live. We have a very powerful and important place to play in our societies. And I also like this one very much. turning a place from somewhere you can't wait to get through to one you never want to leave. And particularly with my own interest in development and asset management, I think that's something that is so important, that, again, how we shape not just the buildings, but the combination of buildings to give a neighbourhood a location, that it's powerful. We want to make it somewhere people want to be, not just something you have to pass through. So just two buildings that have always caught my eye here, both from the United States of America. The first one is the Transit Center next to the World Trade Center. So after 9/11 and the rebuilding of One World Trade Center, the tower, and this beautiful winged transit station. So this is from inside, but part of what we're saying is creating this spacious, cavernous space. It's sort of the cathedral of retail, as people often describe our internal malls today. But you've got, let's use it, let's create something, displays, make them active, energetic places to be. And then the other building, I don't know if anybody's recognizing it, but it's the Amazon Dome in Seattle. So Amazon, effectively, it's one company town, although it has actually expanded much more than that now, but it very much is the headquarters of Amazon globally. And they've created this dome. It's very much of a feature if you're walking around the city at night, but it's not just a place to look at. For staff, it's a place to work. It's filled with greenery to give the environment that research has shown helps creativity. So real estate is very powerful and a very important part of the global economy. And that brings me on to the economic aspects of it. If we think of real estate, the value and how important it is to investment, look at where global real estate sits in connection with other financial investments, equities, shares, and debt securities. Where do oil reserves fit? How does it match up to the global GDP, gold and cryptocurrencies? So I think that, again, is a very powerful way of illustrating how important real estate is and why we need people to really understand the subject matters, everything that goes into real estate, and make sure that we maximize the benefits we get across the globe. So 3 bits in this slide that I want to take you through. So we think of real estate when we talk about the life cycle. So we're thinking from the left-hand side that we have to create real estate. We then have the in-use phase, and then eventually it needs to be repurposed or perhaps demolished and redeveloped. The in-use phase is a predominant part of the building's life cycle. But very often, the focus of attention is on the creation, it's on the planning and development side. In the UK, less than 2% of our building stock is changed each year. So we're very much looking at the in-use phase. Now, for many other cities, the create phase and development has been of prime importance in the last 10, 15 years. So China, the expansion of its cities, what's happening in the Middle East, is very much that create phase. And I'd like to suggest that we need to turn our attention to really understanding the in-use element of their life cycle. So when we put together, say, 4 key elements of real estate, we do have to think about planning and development. What are we creating? As part of that, we need appraisal and valuation skills. We need to understand how we place market values in order for financing to be secured or for people to buy and sell property. And we're thinking about the buying and selling as we move around the squares to the investment and finance side. And again, very much part of what I think many people listening today may be particularly interested in. You're looking for investment. How do you get a good return? And how do you finance it? Now, again, that depends on which part of the world you operate, because financing varies very much between markets. And the asset management, once you have a building, how do you maximize your return from it? And what does return mean? Are we only thinking about financial return, the investment return, or are there other elements and aspects we should consider? So I'm hearing an alarm. I don't know where that's coming from.
That's okay, Mrs. Selma, yeah.
That's fine. I wasn't sure it was something. So apologies for that. That was a UK alarm going off and disturbing. So we're going on to think about what our MSc is aiming to do. So real estate is a really large, vibrant subject area. And what we want to do with our master's program is to make sure that we develop commercially aware real estate professionals working successfully anywhere in the global real estate market. I think what's so important is that irrespective of where you work today in real estate, you have to understand real estate in other contexts, because your investors may come, your occupiers may come from different cultures, different real estate markets. Commercially aware, as we'll see later, University of Manchester is very much a research-led, at the cutting edge of research into all aspects of what happens in our built environment. But it's not theoretical alone. We have to place the research and knowledge in what's actually happening, to be commercially aware. We want to develop your understanding of the role of real estate from all perspectives. Now that's both the investment, the asset side, the capital market side, and the occupier, the space market side, and to understand the impact of global risks and mega trends. And I think when we say that today, and it doesn't matter where we are in the world, we're very conscious of coronavirus, COVID-19, and how that has changed our economic life, impacting on real estate immediately. I'm going to have to rewrite a lot of what we've written for our program, because pandemic risk was not something that was being really thought about. But it won't be the only one. We still need to think about climate risk, population shifts, economic shifts, the mega trends for the future. How will technology change real estate? And because we have that aspect of so many trends changing real estate, one of the aims of our real estate masters is providing an education for the future. So we're really focusing on, we don't know all the problems today. So it's how we approach problems, the critical thinking skills, how we make connections between subject areas, and how we reflect on what we've learned so we can take those skills forward and deal with any problems that we come across in future. And the last point to note here is that we are ICS accredited, and I will come back to that in a moment. So it's a blended learning masters. So what does that really mean? Some of you may have experience of learning at a distance, learning online. And it is a combination of learning online and face-to-face teaching. Both elements are blended to give the overall teaching and learning experience. So we have online learning material. It is interactive. It introduces an idea. It asks you to go and find some information. It gives you a exercise to do. There may be a quiz to test what you've picked up. So it's interactive learning materials. We structure it in a week-by-week basis. You can follow it at your own pace, but you will have the opportunity to share ideas with tutors and your peers through online webinars and discussion boards. You find that probably most beneficial if you're able to work through relatively regularly the material, so that the discussions make sense with what you are reading and studying at your own time. We want you to bring in your work experience. It may be directly relevant, it may not. All assessment is online. You submit it online, and it varies. It might be a report, it might be a blog, could be a group project, could be an online test. No exams. And the key part of this 3-day face-to-face conference, the attendance is expected, it's highly recommended. It's obviously, if you cannot make a conference, it doesn't stop you progressing altogether with the course, the program, but we really hope people will come to those, and they're held every 6 months. So again, I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. The structure, it lasts 24 months. So if you start and you run all the way through the program in 24 months, you hopefully will have satisfactorily completed all of the work, all of the assessments, have your MSc Real Estate from the University of Manchester. However, you can interrupt your studies at times going through that. So if some particular family situation or work situation comes up, you can take some time out. But we're organising it in 4 blocks. You have 20 credit core units. You have to do 6 which are set, 6 core units, and you can choose one of them as an option for choice of 3, and we'll come on to that shortly. And the final part is your 40 credit project-based inquiry. Now, this is an individual project. It's looking at taking something that you've thought about from the material and thought, this sounds really interesting, I want to know more about it, something that perhaps you've come across at work, and you can spend more time actually working on it with guidance from supervisors here at the University of Manchester. Each 20 credit unit is scheduled to last 10 weeks. So you get 8 weeks of top material and then 2 weeks to work on your final assessment. There's then a block, week between moving on to the next unit. And we have 2 conferences per year. Now, each conference will have a sort of specific theme and it's linked to a pair of units. That will probably make more sense when I show you the programme contents slide. So everybody starts with real estate markets. So if you join us this September, that's what you will start studying, real estate markets. I'm going to talk a little bit more about 3 of these units shortly, and that includes real estate markets. You then move into November onto property valuation. That's where we talk about the techniques involved with property valuation, the regulation around it. How do we have international standards to make sure that valuations can be relied upon from investors, funders across the globe? What do we do when we have a very uncertain market? What do we do at the moment when you have to put a point valuation? What is this building worth today when there's so much uncertainty around? How do we deal with that? Your second block will be in February, future cities. So that's looking very much at how cities are developing, the urban planning structures around the design and the development of buildings, and very much focused, it's led by Professor Richard Kingston with an interest in smart cities. What do we mean by a smart city? And I think it's a fallacy to say it's all about technology. It's not. Most experts in smart cities today say, yes, technology is an enabling factor, but we've got to get beyond thinking our urban environment will just be solved and made better by a focus on collecting data and using technology. They're very much, well, once we've got the data, how are we going to analyse it? How are we going to maximise our benefits? How do people actually behave in cities? How do we combine those 2 aspects? And then we're on to land and development, which is really saying we've got a site. How do we go through the process of assessing what we should do on that site and appraise our scheme? The conferences for each block usually will run in week 3 or 4. So you'll have started, you'll have an introduction, cover some of the material. There's an opportunity to come to meet your tutors, to meet your fellow peers. We'll have some presentations and some workshops that are geared around specifically those 2 units, and some things of current interest with industry experts and academic experts. A lot of networking and career development opportunities incorporated into the conferences. So that would normally happen week 3 or 4. And the same for your second block. So we would be having that in week 3 or 4. So you're going to have a conference sort of mid to end of September, and a conference normally mid to end of March. And when you get into year 2, it's a similar format. You'll talk about real estate investment and finance, followed by strategic asset management. So real estate investment and finance is looking at very much at the way in which you can assess the risk. Let's look at the mathematical models that have been designed and look at how you can weigh up the risk and return ratio to decide on what you should add to your portfolio. So looking at an existing portfolio, you have alternative investments. If you take a mathematical approach, a theoretical approach, how do we balance that risk? And what are investors doing? So looking at really what the different approaches across different investment strategies can mean. And the strategic asset management is then thinking, once you've got your properties, how do you realise that strategy? And we'll come back onto that in a moment. A conference that relates to that, and then we are going to be having the chance for an option. At the moment, we have 3. You choose one. You might want to look at real estate law and practice, a very detailed one about how does the whole ownership of land, leases, what happens with neighbouring parcels of land, how does that all come together to affect what you do, the decisions you make. Real estate modelling is the quantitative approach to saying, perhaps for forecasting, looking at how property cycles and elements are affecting property prices, or looking from the corporate perspective, what do occupiers want from their real estate? How do you maximise the benefit to the corporates? And that's often an underestimated element. The property market relies on having a space market, the occupiers wanting to use property which an investor and developer will create and own and lease to them. And a lot of the focus in real estate teaching and research is on the investment side. So we want to make sure the other side is properly thought about too. And then you get on to your project-based inquiry. So at the conference for your block 4, your block 2 in year 2, the conference will spend just a day on your option and 2 days really explaining what the project-based inquiry is going to be about and help you to start thinking about what you'll want to do and to shape it before you start more detailed work on it. So I was just going to tell you a little bit about 2 or 3 of the individual units which might help to give a flavour of what you'll be studying. So real estate markets, we break the 8 weeks into 3 weeks about the fundamentals of real estate. We need to think about what do we mean by ownership? What does that mean in different markets? So segmentation of markets is geographical, it's by sector. What are the different drivers for the office market compared with residential, compared with industry? What about what's called alternative real estate, investment in hotels, student accommodation, senior care homes, data centres? Understanding the institutional framework that affects each real estate market. So that will be very much, let's explore one, based using the UK or US as the most established, most transparent markets, and then your report will be looking at that in the context that you choose. So we go on to week 2 to understand the property cycles and the necessary macroeconomic basics, so we can understand what is driving the cyclical nature of property cycle, the boom and bust. And then we take that forward into the global context, specifically looking at cross-border investment. What are the risks? What are the benefits? The global issues and megatrends mentioned earlier. Strategic asset management. And I think with all the risks around and the uncertainty that COVID has brought to real estate, bearing in mind that the majority of real estate in any market is what is already there, we have to maximise the return. So we do have to think about both the strategic, where do we want to get to level, and also the tactical, how can we deal with individual decisions to help realise our longer term strategy. So why are you holding property? Either you're the owner yourself or you've appointed somebody to manage your property. They have to understand, are you looking at this as a core investment, stable, low risk? Are you wanting income security? Are you wanting income security but prepared to take a bit of risk to get some value add opportunities, increase your capital net worth? Or are you very much looking on, I want opportunistic development, major refurbishment opportunities? So we work through this using a virtual portfolio with some group problems. So really looking at decisions and discussions of some of the tactical issues. And then debating adding value. Is it just financial performance we're looking for, the income and the capital return? And I will argue today that the focus is very much on some other aspects, such as health and well-being, placemaking, tenant as a customer. Real estate's been very slow compared with most other businesses in embracing the tenant as a customer rather than being somebody that the landlord can be quite dismissive about. And sustainability, responsible property asset management, responsible property investment, responsible business practice. That has come up the agenda hugely for both investors and occupying companies. So we need to explore those. Your project-based inquiry is different. This is not something where you have learning materials to work through. There will be some learning materials about approaches, research strategies, how to plan and carry out your project. It's 10,000 words and it's something you want to do, thinking about what's happening in practice, practice-based research. And you'll be supported by group and individual tutorials. I said I wanted to come back to our ICS accreditation. The University of Manchester is an accredited university partner. The Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors is one of the leading global professional bodies in the built environment. It covers many different pathways, from the construction project management, the cost consultancy, environmental management, geomatics, through to real estate. We have commercial property, we have valuation, we have residential planning, property planning and development pathways. So Manchester has 2 programs on campus. They're very successful. We have about 120 students on our programs this year, and we've now added our blended learning, and we've run it. We're on our 3rd cohort of students, all studying out of Manchester. So we're very excited to be launching in the Middle East Centre in September. And I want to confirm that in addition to our ICS accreditation, we have KHDA license approval. So if you are interested in knowing more about real estate, why study with UOM, University of Manchester? Well, our reputation is obviously beneficial to you when you're explaining to future employers what you've studied, the work that's gone into it. If we have, as Manchester, granted you a master's degree saying you've reached our standards, the reputation as a leading research-led university internationally is beneficial to you, and also it means that what you're learning is based on excellent research activity. We have experience in blended learning, so we're not just coming and saying we can do this, you're going to learn with us, you are learning with us on a proven platform. So University of Manchester Worldwide offers a number of programs, and we're delighted real estate is part of their portfolio. And the Middle East Centre has been established for many years, running the Global MBA. So again, you're coming into something that is experienced, and there are career opportunities. We have excellent reputations with international consultancies. We have students placed, for example, CBRE, the world's largest real estate consultancy. We have students who studied with us who are now in the various offices in China, in Dubai. We have students in Knight Frank's offices in Singapore, have been in Vietnam. So we do have a reach way outside just the UK offices of international consultancies. People have gone to international developers based in Germany, Africa, China, Middle East. We have students who are working back with Aramco in Saudi Arabia, for example, who were sponsored to come over and study with us. So, a couple of points to finish with about maybe why we're different. I think we are looking at practice for a global market. We're looking at strategic thinking, underpinned by technical knowledge. If you don't know anything about real estate, this will take you a 2-year program, fast track, somebody you can come in with no knowledge. If you have some experience, it will broaden out to beyond your existing core knowledge to that breadth of real estate knowledge and skills. Apply it immediately in the workplace. It's accredited by the RICS. It's a great way of learning. It's got some flexibility for you, but it's still got a structure around it. We use many real-life scenarios and case studies, and you're going to be developing transferable skills. It's a way in which you learn and you write your assessments. And I wanted to finish with saying meeting the core team. Mark Shepherd is the program director who deals with the day-to-day administration of program queries, and I deal with the same for the campus programs. We're both involved with delivering modules for the blended learning program, and we are both fellows of the RICS. We both assess for the final assessment of the RICS. So you're getting practitioner-led, industry-led knowledge alongside research expertise. Anupam Nanda, Richard Kingston, both have had real estate practice backgrounds before concentrating on their research. Saturius deals with the real estate modelling. Sherry is real estate investment and finance, and Aero the land and development. And both Sherry and Aero are bringing in their practical experience outside the UK from China and other European countries respectively. So I think we're now at the point to open it up for your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Selma. And this was indeed informative, as I could see the questions started floating in right from your early slides itself. There's an attendee, he wants to know more about the future cities which you mentioned in your discussion some time back.
Future cities, we'll start with thinking about how the planning frameworks shape the development within cities. And that's a very much an international perspective, looking at the differences between zone-led systems, which are common from America, many other countries, and the discretionary systems, the pros and cons of both of those. So that can be interesting for people who are actually applying the systems, or for those who are looking at it maybe from more of a government side, wanting to see more how other cities have gone and countries have gone about their planning systems. So it's got a two-pronged approach. We will draw on a lot of Richard's direct research experience and knowledge from international case studies, such as he's currently working on a project involving Melbourne, Singapore, Seattle, and Manchester. So it's looking at how those 4 cities are all approaching the development and definition, really, of smart cities. So it's looking at the initial sort of structure of how the frameworks in which development is planned, and then actually what are the component things. So we would have, perhaps I would be hoping to have a guest lecture from one of our colleagues, not the core team, who is a specialist in autonomous vehicles, and he's looking at how we design cities for enabling autonomous vehicles to be part of the landscape in future. So I don't know if that helps. If you've got more questions, please do add them in if you'd like some follow-up thoughts about that.
Perfect. There are a couple of inquirers who are asking that if they do not have a formal bachelor's degree, but they are having one is 8 years of experience at a management experience in real estate, and the other one is also similar, 10 years of experience. Are they allowed to apply for this course without a bachelor's degree but a relevant experience?
Yes, we will consider that. We will want some information about the experience to understand what you are doing, but certainly do make an application, and we do have people on our campus course on a part-time basis who have not had the previous academic study. So I encourage you to apply. It all dealt with on an individual basis.
Okay. I think the queries coming more of the admissions perspective, which itself is a good sign of any webinar we do. There is a query which is asking about the requirement of IELTS. Since it's because of pandemic, it is going to be very challenging to get a score for English proficiency. So, what they should do in such a situation?
I think let us come back to you with that confirming. We understand that, and we do have the university has been looking into what we do on that. So let us come back to you. So Anita, will you have the details of that inquiry so we can go back to that individual? We're very comfortable with that at the moment, and we don't want to prevent anybody from starting the program if they're interested because of delays that have been occasioned because of the IELTS testing.
Got you. Yeah, we have a record of the query and we can always respond back through emails. There is a budding entrepreneur in the audience, in the attendees. He's willing to start or expand his business internationally. How this degree will help him is the question.
I think one of the main, we've got, and again, our current blended learning students, a real mixture again of people who are in real estate who are just interested and want to make a career change into it. I would say one thing often people don't realise is the breadth of things you need to consider for real estate. So what the programme will do by taking you through those kind of 4 block areas that we talked about, you'll have a much more thorough understanding of how things are interconnected, which helps you to avoid problems and to identify opportunities. It will look at things globally. So if you are wanting to understand how to attract an investor from the US or the UK or from Germany to something in the Middle East, you need to understand what they're used to. So it's very important to understand the markets in different countries so you can explain the differences in your own home market to them and appreciate the kind of significance. So really, it is geared around a commercial awareness. We want you to understand the theory, the practice approach that you need, but encourage you to think widely about what you can do and how you make a difference. So it will give you the big picture that you can then plan your own business, confident that you understand the pitfalls and where the opportunities may lie. Okay.
The other question is the Strategic Asset Management module accredited by the Institute of Asset Management?
No, it doesn't have any separate accreditation to coming under as a core part of the RICS. So no, we don't have any additional accreditation apart from RICS and KHDA.
Okay, that answers this person's query. I have an inquirer. Okay, it is quite similar to the previous questions, one of the questions which we have answered. This person is MSc holder, MSc degree holder. Do we need to have a, no, sorry, he's asking, is this MSc master course, do we need a bachelor's or any other training in real estate before we'll do to apply?
We would normally expect a bachelor's, a good quality bachelor's. As I said earlier, if you have significant, substantial experience, we will discuss that with you and may open up the program to you. And I would say somebody who's on the program at the moment has come in on that route. So let us know what your experience is, and we will come back to you.
Great. There is a query which is related to the financial modeling and investments. Are the models Excel-based or Argus-based? And with regards to some of the software that may be used, do you teach CoStar?
Okay, first of all, CoStar isn't actually a model. CoStar is a database, and we do have access to that, and we do use that, particularly in the property valuation module. For many of our models, they are Excel-based. So for the appraisal modeling in land and development and the real estate investment and finance, that's the core platform. If you do the real estate modeling option, we would be introducing you to statistical database SPSS. So I hope that answers the query, gives you a flavour of that.
Okay. There's again a question which is asking, what is the turnaround time of the application processing?
That's actually not something the academics team can help on. So I'm going to throw that one back to the Middle East Centre team to
Perfect. So one of the program advisor will contact this inquirer. One of the person is asking, I'm advising my clients about investing their money in real estate. How can I engage them during this current COVID-19 situation so they invest?
I think we need to be realistic that for many people, the level of uncertainty today is so much that they will be very hesitant. And I think the best thing I would be doing is just my client care, keeping in touch as much as I can with my investors, and then identifying what, if any, particular benefits or strengths they have of that opportunity to be resilient in the future going forward. So I think there's just so much uncertainty for a month, a couple of months. It will be a difficult economic situation ahead, but I think once people know how the economic situation, but even in economic circumstances that are not positive, particularly, people will still invest because they can start to quantify the downside. I think at the moment there's just so many, nobody knows when economies will start opening up. In a month, 2 months time, I think that's when people will start to see the opportunity, perhaps, if they have an appetite for risk, to do something.
Great. I can see there's questions coming up for asset again. Selma, as part of the project module, can I undertake research on asset management?
Yes, you can. The research module will allow you to do a very wide range of things. So I've just got rid of the slides now so you can see me. A wide range, and you can focus that on something that interests you or your current area of work if it is asset management.
Wonderful, lovely. Now there are a couple of questions which are now probably you have to associate with their recent establishment in this industry. As a beginner in real estate with a small investment, what key actions we should take to grow fast?
I think the #1 piece of advice would be to understand your market. So you decide whether it's a geographical or a sector market, really become an expert in that so that you can advise potential clients, whether it's investors or tenants taking the space, that they can trust you, you understand. And I think it's what I was saying in asset management, there's a changing approach where the landlord-tenant relationship used to be across the global property market very much of, I'm the landlord, I tell you, the tenant, what to do. Over time, and it's not just because of recessionary periods where the tenant has a stronger negotiating position, but beginning to really learn how you make, if you like, a partnership less antagonistic, and more like many other businesses. When you read business literature, real estate is so far behind many other businesses. So I would suggest anybody with a company you're trying to grow, your client care, your customer focus is really important. And take that into any landlord-tenant relationship as well, and develop your knowledge so that whether it be your financiers, your funders, your investors, or your tenants actually trust you.
Okay. There's a question which has come. One quick second, I just lost. So how do you see the pandemic shaping the real estate industry, Ms. Salma?
I think that's a very big question. There were changes underway, and I think it will accelerate those. I think what was happening in retail, for example, the changes in many, and again, it depends on the country location, how things are built. I think we had not changed that. I think it will possibly, I'd like to think it will change the emphasis on making housing more affordable, because the affordability of housing is a worldwide issue. So that many cities like Dubai, for example, there's a lot of premium product, and it's balancing the affordability with what is actually created. And that's a major issue in American cities and throughout the key European cities as well, and Eastern ones. So I think the pandemic, I'm hopeful, will be sufficiently major to really make a 10-year shift happen in 2 years to some of the things that have been happening. And I think where some people at the moment are saying the new style of workspace, the co-working space, is doomed because it all relies on close proximity. I think that will come back. I think the fundamentals for why that are wanted will still be there. It will just take 1 or 2 years for people to be more confident again about that. So I think we'll see a slowdown. I think more on responsible property investment as well, the sustainability and the social aspects. It really will be balancing not just the economic, which has always got to be there. And I get very cross with some of my colleagues in planning who are rather idealistic. The economics of any development and investment have to be strong, but environmental has been getting higher profile, and I think the social side will come. So I think the pandemic will slow transactions. It will probably reduce demand and prices, but real estate is so fundamental that if we focus on what people need and want, real estate will, as long as we don't just keep building too much of what we've done in the past, we need to understand where the market's going and tailor our product for the market.
I can see a lot of questions pouring in, which is associated with the program fee structure, the scholarships, and how to apply. So for all those who are writing out here, we will get back to you through an email. You can have all the details mentioned in that email, and we will be more than happy to have our program advisors to speak with you, and they will give you all the insight which you are seeking forward to apply further. Professor Selma, I'll take another question. As a real estate broker employee, do you advise this course, and how will it help me?
I think it's an excellent course for somebody who's working in the broking in the agency side. You often, if you're a very successful broker, you know your market very well, and you can do the connecting job between the product and the buyer. But this often gives you the chance, or should give you the chance, to understand a much bigger picture. And my experience from students before, my own experience of working in the big firms on the broking side, sometimes you get so focused on the product, it's the ability to actually look up and understand the big picture, so you're able to take your career further in future. So I think it can help you both with what you're doing on a day-to-day, but I think it can open up the opportunity to progress further and in different fields, perhaps.
I have a question which is related to the electives. The question says that with regards to the 10,000 page research project, could a student do the 3 elective courses in lieu of the paper? Also, could a student finish the program in 1 year in lieu of 2 years?
No, it will be 1 year. So once we're running it from Dubai, it will be very much, as we said, the block 1 from September, block 2 from next March, block 3. And so it's no ability to accelerate it. And we have never got any intention to do that. If you are keen to do something in 1 year, we would say, please come to campus and do it in 1 year. You can't cover this master's program in 1 year, and we suggest and with a full-time job. So it would be a great thing to come and see you here in Manchester studying it if you want to do it fast. And no, the project cannot be replaced with more taught courses, and that again is part of what we want to achieve overall, is that there's a lot of core content and skills to gain from the 7 core units, but the project's a really important part of it, the independent thinking. And we want that all our graduates with a Manchester degree are known that they've had that ability to put together a good project. So it's important for us to keep the standard of our degree up, that we keep it like that.
Very well explained. There's a person is asking how MSc in real estate different from MSc real estate and asset management program.
So this is a comparison between what we're doing distance learning and what we're doing on our campus program. The blended learning program is more directive, I think we'd say that. If you came to campus and did our real estate asset management program, there are 1 or 2 extra modules. We have a new one that starts next academic year called Advanced Finance for Real Estate, where you do financial modelling in more detail, not the statistical modelling of real estate modelling, but more, again, an Excel-based platform, but looking at financing in more detail, options for financing, and do that. So that's something you could do. Real estate asset management is to kind of taking investment and finance further forward, and you also get the opportunity through our campus-based program of participating in some additional units. Normally we'd say things like the international field trip. We're not quite sure what's going to be able to happen with that next year. A real estate markets, if we do that on campus, we incorporate a field trip to London as part of it. So unit-wise, there's a lot of overlap, and so we give it the same name. You will study the same elements and have the same learning outcomes. So very similar are real estate asset management campus and real estate blended learning. The key difference is blended learning. You do a 40 credit project, not a 60 credit dissertation, and you have future cities, whereas we at the moment don't offer that on campus. So I hope that's, I'm more than happy if anybody wants to know more about studying real estate in Manchester, please again do email me separately and I'm happy to follow that up.
Right. Wonderful. So I think we have covered almost all the queries and questions which we have. And for those, I'll repeat, those who are inquiring about the admission-oriented questions, we will get back to you, one of the program advisors. I'll again mention out to the attendees, I'm sure you've been benefited by this webinar. You have got a greater insight about this MSc program altogether, straight from the program director. And I am sure if you still have more questions and queries, you can always write back to us on re@manchester.ac.ae and we will address your queries. I'll also request you all, if you are more keen to know more about such webinars and latest happenings about the University of Manchester Middle East Center, you can visit our website, follow the events page, follow our social media handles, and get updated about it. On that note, I would like to extend a very, very great thank you to Ms. Selma for taking out time and sharing your valuable inputs about this program, which is always awaited, especially from the aspirants and the prospects from this region. And I'm very thankful to you for this wonderful presentation you've done today.
Well, I wish I could see everybody who's there, but thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about our programme. The real estate, for those of you who are not involved, is a fascinating subject, and it gives many opportunities for wonderful careers. So I encourage you to think seriously about learning more about it.
Lovely. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Please take care of yourself and stay safe. Thank you, Ms. Selma. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.